Let me see, I can see the first question. So must an employee have a certain period of work to obtain remote working? So an employee must have 6 months continuous service before a period of flexible working arrangements can commence. An 8-week notice of a request must be given to the employer. So a request for flexible working arrangement must be in writing and signed by the employee. An employer must respond to such request within 4 weeks of receipt, and this time period may be extended by a further 4 weeks if the employer is having difficulty assessing the viability of the request. Okay, so let's see what the second question is. Okay, so what are the grounds for a postponement of flexible working arrangement? Okay, so an employer may, by notice in writing, postpone the commencement of a flexible working arrangement by up to 6 months where satisfied that its commencement would have a substantial adverse effect on the operation of its business, profession or occupation, by reason of seasonal variations in the volume of work concerned, the unavailability of a person to carry out the duties of the employee, the nature of those duties, the number of employees in the employment, or the number of other approved flexible working arrangements which fall within the same period, or other relevant matters. So interestingly, there is no indicative list or reasons that might justify refusal or request contained in the bill. The notice must contain a summary of the grounds for the postponement before informing the employee of a postponement. The employee must consult with the employee on this. The employer must consult with the employee on this. Okay, so let's see the third question. Is there any other amendments to the Maternity Protection Act? So the bill contains other amendments to the Maternity Protection Act to provide a transgender male who has, in accordance with the Gender Recognition Act 2015, obtained a gender recognition cert, subsequently becomes pregnant to fall within the scope of the maternity protection legislation. Okay, so the fourth question. How has the Act extended the right to breastfeeding breaks? Okay, so let's see. The Act extends the right to breastfeeding breaks from 1 year to 2 years. This means that employees who are breastfeeding can take breaks during their working hours to express milk or breastfeed their child up until the child reaches 2 years of age. The provisions recognise the importance of supporting breastfeeding mothers and ensuring that they have the necessary time and facilities to maintain their breastfeeding relationship while working. Okay, let's see what time. Perfect. Okay. Let's see if we have another question. What is the provision for victims of domestic violence under the Act? Okay, so the Act grants victims of domestic violence 5 days of paid leave. This provision acknowledges the importance of providing support and time off for the individuals who are dealing with repercussions of domestic violence. It allows victims to take the necessary steps to ensure their safety and well-being without worrying about the financial implications. Okay. We'll take a few more questions. So what is the WRC Code of Practice on the right to request remote work? The WRC, so that would be the Workplace Relations Commission, is developing a code of practice to provide additional guidance for employers regarding the right to request remote work. This code will offer further clarity and recommendations on how employers should handle remote work requests from employees. Okay, and let's see, one more. Will employers be obligated to consider remote work requests under the new law? Okay, so yes, under the new law, employers will be obliged to consider remote work requests from employees. This means that when an employee makes a formal request to work remotely, the employer is required to review and assess the request in a fair and reasonable manner. Okay, so we'll take one more, and this is our last question for today. If an employer refuses to a remote work request, what is required of them under the Act? Okay, so if an employer decides to refuse a remote work request, the Act stipulates that they must provide a written notification to the employee. This notification should clearly outline the reasons for refusal, by providing a written explanation, employers ensure transparency and enable employees to understand the decision-making process. Please note, so basically this would be that it would have to be written down. It would have to give the reasons why, just so that the employee understands why they're being refused. So I think that's the last question for today. Thank you so much for your time in coming to this webinar, this e-learning session on the Miscellaneous Provisions Act. And thank you so much. Bye.